Next on Currents News, new developments in the impeachment battle on Capitol Hill. The man in charge of national intelligence is in the hot seat.
35 years ago, a Catholic student walked these halls, and now she's back to give back. I'm Emily Drooby, and that is ahead.
A new federal judicial nominee is being questioned over his writings in support of the unborn. Plus, Mexican pro-life defenders out in force as lawmakers vote to legalize abortion. The news starts right now.
I am not partisan, and I am not political.
America's top spy defending himself as he's grilled on Capitol Hill. Good evening, I'm Tamara Lane. Acting National Intelligence Chief Joseph MAGUIRE facing tough questions from Democrats today. They want answers about a whistleblower's complaint against President Trump that sparked a formal impeachment inquiry. At the same time, Trump is hitting back at his critics. Mary Maloney now with the very latest from Washington.
As Congress continued its impeachment inquiry, President Trump arrived in Washington and fought back.
What these guys are doing, Democrats are doing to this country, is a disgrace, and it shouldn't be allowed.
A whistleblower claimed President Trump abused the power of the presidency by asking the president of Ukraine to interfere in the 2020 elections and investigate Hunter and Joe Biden. According to a transcript of the call released by the White House, President Trump brought this up and asked for a favor. The president insists he did nothing wrong.
It's another witch hunt. Here we go again.
But the whistleblower's complaint details that White House officials were concerned and attempted to cover up the conversation by locking down the electronic transcript and move it to a secretive server.
This is a cover-up.
The Inspector General of the intelligence community says the whistleblower's claims appear credible and should be of urgent concern. At a contentious hearing on Capitol Hill, the acting director of national intelligence defended the whistleblower.
I think the whistleblower did the right thing. I think he followed the law every step of the way.
But urged an investigation, since the whistleblower is an intelligence official who did not witness any of the allegations in the complaint, but instead heard about it from multiple U.S. government officials.
Right now, all we have is an allegation for secondhand information from a whistleblower.
In Washington, Mary Maloney, Currents News.
Stay with us for more coverage on this evolving impeachment battle. St. John's University political expert Brian Browne will be here. He'll explain where we are now and what's likely to happen next. That's still ahead in this newscast. A federal judicial nominee is also under fire tonight. This one over an anti-abortion op-ed. Steve Menashe wrote an article on the subject while in college. Now, Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein is questioning his fitness to sit on the bench. Menashe described the undesired moral consequences of abortion, and Feinstein is demanding an explanation. He's up for the U.S. Court of Appeals. Over in Mexico, hundreds of pro-life supporters jammed into the state Congress of Oaxaca. They made their voices heard as lawmakers voted to legalize abortions during the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. Oaxaca's Congress is dominated by left-wing politicians. It is only the second local government in Mexico to permit the deadly procedure. The capital decriminalized abortions a decade ago. Mexico is overwhelmingly Catholic, with almost 100 million believers. Respect Life Month in America will begin in October. Archbishop Joseph Naumann, who leads pro-life activities for U.S. bishops, is saying while attacks against human life seem to grow ever more numerous and callous, we know that Christ has conquered sin and death. Be assured of my prayers for you and for our common efforts to bring about a world in which every life is cherished. Respect Life Sunday will be celebrated October 6th in parishes across the country. Now, a story you'll only see on Currents News. When a teenager was facing tough times, she turned to a Catholic organization that helped her make it through the storm. Today, she runs that same nonprofit, dedicating her life to those in need. Currents News' Emily Drooby has the exclusive report.
Cathedral High School helped shape Deborah Vizzi into the person she is today, but her path wasn't easy or even conventional.
and I ended up running away from a foster home and becoming homeless.
A teenager on her own with no one to depend on. Deborah eventually found shelter at a home run by the Catholic organization Good Shepherd Services. That's when a few more angels entered her life, including Peter Flanagan.
And I met him through a nun who was introduced to me in a soup kitchen.
Flanagan, a devout Catholic, was moved by her story. He became a mentor to Deborah and paid her $350 a year tuition to Cathedral High School. That's how Deborah became the first recipient of assistance from student-sponsored partners, Flanagan's nonprofit, which connects low-income kids with financial sponsors and mentors to help them reach their full potential. Her former teacher at Cathedral says the teen thrived at the prestigious school.
Deborah was a very good student, and she really had a tremendous sense of humor and very kind to others.
Deborah eventually went to college, got a master's degree, and is working on her PhD. Now, over 35 years after she was blessed by the nonprofit that changed her life, she's giving back, serving as the group's executive director, helping out kids, just as Flanagan did for her.
Every time a kid comes back, every time a child graduates, I know that I had an impact or a part in their success, and to me, it's worth it.
Deborah also shares her story to inspire students.
Challenging.
Like this group of SSP students at her alma mater.
Since she did it and she conquered all the things that she had in her life, I think I can do it as well. You know, wherever low point you're at, you can get out of that.
Anyone interested in donating to or becoming a mentor can reach out through sspnyc.org. Deborah's story is proof that with a little bit of help, kids can do anything. In Manhattan, Emily Drooby, Currents News.
Tonight, a 12th person is dead in the latest case linked to the use of e-cigarettes. More than 500 other people are suffering lung illnesses that could be related to vaping. The FDA's top man told Congress medical experts are still searching for a common cause.
Although these cases seem similar, it is not clear if they have a common cause or if they have different pathogenesis with similar presentation. The investigation has not identified any specific substance or product that is linked to all cases.
The news comes after New York, Michigan, and Rhode Island banned flavored e-cigarettes from being sold. In Massachusetts, all vaping products are being pulled from the shelves for the next 4 months, the first total ban in the country. Todd Kazakiewicz reports on local inspectors at work enforcing the new rules.
I'm from the city of Quincy, and I have to ask you a question. Do you sell any vape products?
Yes. All day, inspectors for local departments of health have been visiting retailers and providing written notification of the temporary ban on vaping products.
You're going to have to remove them all from the shelves.
This store in Quincy was one of the few to still be stocking vaping products, but the clerk quickly complied with the inspector's direction. This is a scene playing out across this city and the Commonwealth.
Handing out a copy of the governor's declaration of this public health emergency and why he did it. And then we have some signage that they can put in their window that explains the ban.
I'm going to have to look for a job to pay the rent.
At Southeast Smoke Shop in South Boston, owner Andy Patel says he didn't wait for official notification by a city inspector. He and his team removed all their vaping inventory yesterday. He says vaping is 90% of his business.
We have like $60,000 inventory. What are we going to do? We're just going to sit here and do nothing.
Todd Kazakiewicz filing that report from Massachusetts. The statewide ban on all vaping devices and products will be in place until January 25th. Prominent American Cardinal William Levada has returned to the Lord. For 7 years, he was in charge of the Vatican's Office for the Doctrine of the Faith, one of the most important jobs at the Holy See. Cardinal Levada was the first American to head up the department. He was given the assignment by Benedict XVI, who had the job until his election as Pope. Cardinal Levada was also responsible for overseeing the Vatican's handling of child sexual abuse cases. He was 83 years old. We remember Cardinal William Levada in our prayers. For the first time, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia is admitting he bears responsibility for the death of American journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Still, Mohammed bin Salman is denying he had anything to do with the man's murder. The killing and dismemberment of Khashoggi inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul a year ago reverberated around the world. Khashoggi had criticized the prince in a series of articles that appeared in the Washington Post. The CIA concluded bin Salman likely ordered Khashoggi's killing. There's a lot more news headed your way. The battle over impeachment is producing a lot of questions. A St. John's University political expert is next with answers. President Trump is cutting a new asylum deal. And the big price churches are paying to protect migrants. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. Now more on tonight's top story, the impeachment battle that's taking shape in Washington. Brian Brown, a political expert from St. John's University, joins us now. Brian, thanks so much for being with us.
Good to be here.
Brian, where do we stand right now? Nancy Pelosi has said that she's officially formalized impeachment inquiries into the president. What does the day-to-day activities of the president and of Congress look like now?
Well, it's going to change hour by hour, and that we've already seen that happen this week. Impeachment proceedings is something our country has only experienced a handful of times, and it's really a seismic political event. We have seen the tremors earlier in the week when Speaker Pelosi announced this inquiry. Those tremors are getting louder as more and more information comes out day to day.
Well, so it's widely known that Americans dread this process. And the country is already politically divided right now. Will this hurt American politics?
Well, it's really going to become an all-consuming story, and it's going to impact the presidential primary race that's going on. It's going to impact the day-to-day operations of Congress. And the longer Congress is talking about impeachment, they're not talking about gun control and immigration reform and prescription drug prices and all the important things that really matter day-to-day in American life.
And that'll help the president, because that's part of his argument, is that he's the only one doing anything.
It will, but again, as more information comes to light, that story might change.
Now, a survey of the House shows a majority of the members support impeachment, and that's what they need, is a majority in order to impeach the president. So do you think that that's going to happen?
Well, it certainly is going to happen in the House. The numbers are there. And all the responsibility starts in the House of Representatives. They have the formal impeachment process. From there, it will go to the Senate, where impeachment is almost like an indictment. The trial is held in the Senate. All the senators serve as jury. The Chief Justice will preside over this trial, and they need 2/3 of the sitting Senate to have a conviction or to remove a president from office. And that, in this day and age in today's politics, that might be a hard number to get to.
Okay, so let's break down what this means. The Constitution allows for impeachment for high crimes and misdemeanors. What exactly does that mean?
And that's about all it means. The Constitution, our founding fathers are somewhat vague when it came to how to define high crimes and misdemeanors. They do mention treason and bribery, but it's really up to the jury to decide. And they will see if meddling in an election, if it's trying to seek assistance from a foreign country to potentially impact an election here, does that meet that standard?
So who are the winners and the losers in this?
Well, the losers clearly are the American people because, like I said, as long as they're talking about impeachment, a lot of work isn't getting done in Congress. President Trump certainly stands to lose based on the outcome of the proceedings. Joe Biden, who's right now the leading candidate on the Democratic side, the longer they're talking about some potential improprieties by his son or associates of his son's business firm, he stands to lose. So there's really a lot of downside to this, but it is a sacred responsibility that's part of our Constitution that really we have to see this process through to find the greater good.
So now you watched this morning's interrogation, basically, of the acting DNI director. What was your takeaway from that?
Well, I think, first of all, whoever this whistleblower is, and right now their identity is being concealed, I think a courageous person, because all it takes is one person to come forward. They could have come forward to the media. Instead, they followed the established process that they have for whistleblowers. There was some tough questioning in the public session. There'll probably be more tough questioning in the private session on the Senate Intelligence Committee. But right now, we're in a fact-finding mission. We're going to have to get the facts and let the truth come out as it may, based on the facts. But this This is nothing to be happy about for the American people. There are really no winners in this process, and it's, like I said, it's something we've only experienced a handful of times, and right now we're in the early stages of it, and time will tell how it develops.
Is there even a chance of conviction in the Senate?
Well, there's always a chance, but if history is our guide, it's unlikely. Both Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton were acquitted in the Senate trial. Richard Nixon resigned before it got that far. So this would be a first-time event for an unconventional president, so we'll see.
And a lot more to come.
A lot more to come. This is a story you're going to be covering for quite a while.
Brian Brown of St. John's University, thank you so much for being with us.
Good to be here. Thank you.
President Trump is cutting an asylum deal with Honduras. He and the country's president, Juan Hernandez, finalized the agreement at the United Nations. It allows the U.S. to send asylum seekers back to Honduras. Similar deals have been struck with El Salvador and Guatemala. Migrants from the Central American countries make up most of the people descending on the U.S. southern border. The flood of migrants is overwhelming U.S. facilities at the border. Agents are releasing tens of thousands of people out onto the streets with no provisions for their care. Catholic churches, charities, and local governments are filling the void. The latest estimate is that the group spent at least $7 million in the past year. Most of the people being helped are families with young children. Still to come on Currents News. Bishop DiMarzio is moments away. He's taking a look at a controversial statement by Pope Francis about Americans. The uplifting story of when a cop helped out a mom and her children. And please check out one of the latest features in the tablet, the Our Diocesan Family page. That's where you can send in photos of your family receiving certain sacraments, such as baptisms, first communions, confirmations, and marriage. For more information and submit your pictures, go to thetablet.org/OurDiocesanFamily. We'll be right back. When Pope Francis visited Africa, he said something about Americans that touched off a lot of talk. Bishop DiMarzio is with Ed Wilkinson to examine what the Holy Father said and the reaction to it. Ed?
Thank you. Today we're going to talk with Bishop DiMarzio about a recent controversial remark that the Holy Father made on a plane trip to Mozambique.
Another one.
He always gets in trouble when he's on the plane, Bishop.
I know. He's answering these questions often.
Yeah. There was a question about some Americans who were opposed to some of the Pope's policy, and the Holy Father said something like it's an honor to be criticized by these Americans. Does he have something against Americans?
Well, one of his aides clarified it later to say that he said, well, when anybody from a sophisticated country criticizes, it's good to be criticized. So again, I don't think there's a major movement in the United States against the Pope. I mean, I haven't seen any evidence of that. There's some people that always are unhappy about any administration that we have. I think, again, most importantly, as Catholics, we're loyal to the Pope. We recognize that he's been chosen not just by the cardinals, but by the influence of the Holy Spirit, and he is bringing something to the leadership of the Church. So we recognize that. May not agree with every position that the Pope takes, because not every position is regarding faith and morals. There, we can't disagree, but many other things are opinions that are good, not necessarily something we agree with, but you can criticize those opinions, things that are not essential to the faith. So we have to distinguish between what's essential and what's not.
Well, some of the things that some people criticize him for, conservative people seem to be upset when he talks about mercy, and they say we should be talking more about the rules. Is that a problem?
No, he's emphasizing, certainly that's part of our understanding of the gospel. The Gospel of Luke is called the Gospel of Mercy. So we see all those parables are mercy shown by the Lord teaching us that. So he's emphasizing one thing. Maybe somebody else will emphasize something else, but it all fits into the big picture.
Sometimes it seems like he's pretty harsh about capitalism, and some people say, oh, he's more of a socialist, and we want to get away from that. Is he antithetically opposed to capitalism and the capitalist way of life?
There's nothing he's ever written in encyclicals that would say that. Obviously, he's looking for capitalism with a heart. He's not looking for the kind of capitalism which is solely looking to make money without having a social conscience. So that's clearly his way. I mean, I would agree with him on that. I don't believe socialism is the best system, nor communism, but capitalism has afforded the church really a possibility of growth in many, many countries. But at the same time, capitalism can't be unbridled. It has to have that social conscience that allows it to use the wealth it creates for the benefit of everyone.
Mm-hmm. Some people don't like the overtures that he's making to countries like China and to Cuba. They say that he's maybe watering down the faith a little bit, say like in the way they're sharing power in the making of bishops in China. Is that a potential problem?
Well, again, it's nothing new. We've done that before in the history of the church. There were days in the days up past that the kings made the bishops, and so you're sharing this now. I think it's about they have to present a turn of 3 names, and they have to agree on them, and one of them then would be chosen. So it's a sharing system. Maybe it's not the way it's done in most places, but if it works there, we see so far that there has been a few bishops already named under this new system, which seems to be working.
When the Holy Father came here to the United States, I think it was his first trip to North America, and he seemed to really enjoy being part of the American church here. Did you have any reactions to his reactions to the American church?
No, I think when he was here, and when he spoke to the bishops when we were in Washington together, I mean, he was very supportive of the bishops. He had a lot of good things to say about the church in the United States. You know, the world looks to the church in the United States for leadership. This summer I've received many bishops from India, from Africa, and one African bishop said, you know, we need you, church in the United States. We're sad about the sex abuse crisis because it takes away from your ability to lead in the church, to give us new ideas, new programs. The whole world does look to the church, and I don't think the Pope is any different. They recognize the vibrancy of the church in the United States. We have our problems, but we also have, it's a young church in many ways. It's not a tired church as maybe you look to Europe. They're a little bit tired, it's more difficult to do things. We still have a vibrancy, so I think that's the better characterization.
Good. Interesting perspective. Bishop, thank you so much. Back to you at the news desk.
Thank you, Ed, and Bishop DiMarzio for that insight. Finally tonight, a young mom down on her luck got a gift she never expected after she was pulled over. The mom and her twin 1-year-olds were flagged by Georgia police because she did not have a license plate and her kids weren't properly strapped in. That's when the officers found out she recently had her car stolen and she couldn't afford new car seats. So they stepped in to help. One cop ran to Walmart to buy the new seats. The other played with the twins. One of the policemen, Officer Austin Newman, is a father-to-be and says he thought about his own child during the act of kindness.
Essentially makes me want to make sure I have a good seat and that it's in properly so that whenever my child decides to make an appearance, I don't have to worry about, you know, God forbid if I'm ever in a collision.
Ultimately, the officers say they want parents in Savannah to know that they are here to help if they have any questions or needs for their child's car safety. That is Currents News. I'm Tamara Lane. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.